Constructing and analyzing two-way frequency tables. First, we'll look at classifying data. There are two ways to classify data. One is quantitative data, and this involves numbers that usually result from measurement. The second way to classify data is categorical data. And this takes on values that are names or labels, such as gender, color, and race. Comparing categorical data. Two-way frequency tables are used to compare categorical data. And this is a data display used to display and interpret frequencies for categorical variables. This helps us to see associations between two variables, and it shows joint frequencies and marginal frequencies. So this is an example of a two-way frequency table. So within the middle of the table, you have the joint frequencies, and they are in the body of the table. Okay? Along the margins where your totals are located, these are called marginal frequencies. A two-way relative frequency table is a data display used to display and interpret relative frequencies for categorical variables. A relative frequency is the ratio of a frequency for a category to the total frequencies in a row, column, or table. So here's an example of a two-way relative frequency table. And we see that they're represented as percentages, and sometimes they'll be represented as decimals. So in the body of a two-way relative frequency table, these are called conditional frequencies, and the ones along the margins are still called marginal frequencies. Examples. Example 1, Kyra asks students and parents of students at her high school whether they are in favor of or against a proposal to remove the juice machine from the school cafeteria. The two-way frequency table displays the results of the survey. Identify and interpret the marginal and joint frequencies in the table. Okay, so let's first look at the marginal frequencies. So the marginal frequencies are located here. Okay, so basically what we're looking at, we need to see and be able to identify what this 42 means, what this 38 means, the 80, the 55, and the 25. So let's start with the 42 and the 38. So what this 42 tells us is that there were 42 students who were asked to participate in the surveys. So we can say that 42 students participated in the survey. And this is our identifying part. And 38 parents participated in the survey. Okay? Now this 80 tells us that the total number of people who participated. So there were 80 people in all who participated in the survey. All right, now let's take a look at the 25 and the 55. So this 25 tells us that there were 25 people who were for removing the juice machine. And this 55 says that there were 55 people against removing the juice machine. So 25 people were for the removal of the juice machine, and 55 people were against the removal of the machine. Now, all we've done so far is identified. We still need to interpret. So again, we're still talking about our marginal frequencies. So let's talk about interpreting now. So when we interpret, we're basically like comparing. So what we're going to say here as far as interpreting these numbers is that more students participated in the survey than adults, or parents, than parents. And then with the 25 and 55, we'll say that more people were against the removal of the juice machine. Okay? So this is just dealing with our marginal frequencies. And now we need to look at our joint frequencies, which are in the body of the table. So let's first look at the 5 and the 37. And I see that we're going to run out of room, so let me go ahead and move to the next slide to do the next part. All right, so looking at this 5 and 37. So this is telling us that there are more students that 5 students wanted the machine removed and 37 were against the removal of the machine. So 5 students were for the removal of the juice machine, and 37 students were against the removal of the juice machine. Now, if we look at this 20 and 18, this tells us that 20 parents were for the removal of the juice machine, and 18 parents were against the removal of the machine. So looking at this, let's go ahead and interpret. So what we can interpret looking at this 5 and 37, 5 and 37, is that more students, or not more, I'm sorry, let's do most, because we're just looking at the students, we're not comparing them to anything. So most students were against the removal of the machine, whereas more parents were for the removal of the juice machine. And now we're going to look at our joint frequencies going the other way. So we're going to look at the 5 and 20, and then the 37 and the 18. Okay, so we've already done all of our identifying, so I'm not going to identify again. We're just going to look at the interpreting. So as far as the 5 students and the 20 parents who are for the removal, we can just say that more parents than students were for the removal of the juice machine. And here we see that more students than parents were against the removal of the juice machine.